My sorry that's too rich for my blood guy. Who is it for you, Craig?
It's Christian McCaffrey. I don't like dealing with Niners running backs. Shanahan and running backs don't mix with me. People think that McCaffrey is getting the Panthers role in San Francisco, but the reality is one, they want to keep him healthy throughout the whole year. And when Eli Mitchell, who's a really good backup on the team, when he was healthy last year, him and McCaffrey split carries pretty much 50-50. So I actually think McCaffrey going number one overall and you dropping $60 on him is not a smart decision. For all we know, Jordan Mason's going to be getting goal line work for the Niners.
I love it. And he was my backup choice. But I'm going with a guy who came up earlier in this podcast, Tony Pollard.
No.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You know why? Because you guys are all in on Tony Pollard. It's all happening. It's all
That's fair.
I think he's going to go for like $62. Two people are going to be, they're going to listen to this pod, other ones, and get all excited about him. And guess what? Maybe Tony Pollard was great in a limited role. Maybe he was McConaughey in Wolf of Wall Street. Maybe you didn't want 3 hours of McConaughey in that movie. Maybe it was nice just to have him pop in for a nice section and then leave. Pollard comes in and out. He's in the perfect situation. Way more explosive than Zeke. Do we know if he can get 300 plus carries? Do we know if he can be the goal line back? I don't know. I'm not going to spend $62 to find out. So he's my guy. Who do you got, DK?
I'm going with Breece Hall for the Jets.
Yeah, that's a great pick.
I mean, he's been, in my opinion, I've been trying to tell these guys all off season that he's just a little too highly priced right now. Just based on the fact, number one, he's coming off an ACL, which, he might be fine. He might do, he might be spectacular and whatever. And like, he won't have any ill effects from this ACL, but there's also a strong chance that he has other compensatory injuries around that injury or whatever. And I don't want to have to worry about him being hurt every single week. And then the other thing is obviously they signed Dalvin Cook, which is it's an even bigger reason. It sounds like coming from the Jets that Aaron Rodgers was really, trying to get this to happen. He apparently loves Dalvin Cook. There's a chance he lobbies and gets Dalvin Cook more playing time. There's a chance Dalvin Cook is just straight up the starter on this offense. And so there's just too many variables going on here. I think Breece Hall is awesome. I think he's an awesome player. And, he could end up making me look bad for that. But there's too many variables and I'm just shying away from that every single time I go into a draft. I'm just like, there's too many things going on there.
Let's ask somebody who has recent experience with rooting for a team whose star running back tore an ACL and then came back. Like year one after the injury of Saquon was not remotely like year two after the injury of Saquon, right, Danny?
No, not at all. And so Saquon's was a little different because he had, I think, an ACL and a meniscus. And basically what that does is delay you being able to have the surgery and the recovery afterward. And that's why Breece Hall's was considered, quote, like cleaner because Javonte Williams, when you have multiple stuff, there's all these variables. Having said that, everyone's like, well, Adrian Peterson came back from an ACL and that was 10 years ago. We don't have a second example yet. Like at some point, like why don't we just stop trying to bet on outliers and like just there are all these other players. Like there's so many running backs similar to Breece Hall. And also again, just like earlier, Lombardi made that great point about Arthur Smith is trying to tell us who Kyle Pitts is. When the Jets go out of their way to pay $7 million to bring in Dalvin Cook, listen to them.
Right.
Yeah. Who do you have for this category, Heifetz?
Cooper Kupp, man. I hate to say it, but you want Cooper Kupp, you got to pay $55, basically a quarter of your budget or a first round pick. And when I go to like click that button, I think people are missing the forest for the trees. If you just look at per game last year, Cooper Kupp per game was the number one receiver in fantasy when he went down. The percentage of the passing game he has of the Rams is historically great. And everyone's like, well, he's so much better. I think everyone's missing the forest for the trees. If he gets hurt, are the Rams really going to, do they want to win this year? Do the Rams want Caleb Williams? The prospect of the Rams shutting down Stafford, who debated retiring this year, or Stafford getting hurt, and the Rams just saying, you know what, Cooper Kupp, you have a hamstring injury. We're going to shut you down. Is so much disproportionately more important for Cooper Kupp to play for you in December in the fantasy playoffs is so much more important than the marginal gains he has over like Jamar Chase or Tyreek Hill that I'm like, why am I risking like all these other guys? I don't have to ask whether their team wants them to play in the final weeks of the season.
I wouldn't take him even if he was free guy, aka the DND list. DK, who do you got? Who's on your DND list? Who's your number one?
So Craig's gonna be mad at me about this, but it's Cam Akers for the Rams. I'm just off. I'm off that train. There was a point in time in my life when I really liked Cam Akers, But there's just so many reasons for me to fade him this year. Even past like the whole like personality thing where he trying to kind of quit on the team last year. He was like away from the team for a while. They like him and Sean McVay rekindled their relationship. I don't know what the hell happened there. But like just past that, I think the Rams are going to have to pass a lot this year because their defense isn't going to be very good. They're going to be playing from behind. They have 30 undrafted free agents on their roster. And I don't know. To me, it's just, that's a little bit worrisome. I think they're probably going to have to lean on the pass a little bit more. I think Kyron Williams is going to be the guy that they lean on for that in terms of their running backs. And so I don't know. There's just too many red flags with him. And then he's also a guy who came off of Achilles. So, not to steal from another category, but it's like as soon as the red cross pops up next to his name, I'm just going to be worried the rest of the season on him. I just don't want to have to deal with it.
And there was some weird chemistry stuff with him and McVay last year too, which they sorted out. But there was 3 weeks there where he was available for basically anything. Who do you got, Heifetz?
I don't want Deshaun Watson on my team this year, man. Fantasy football is supposed to be fun, and I'm going to be staring at my TV, and I'm going to be like rooting for Deshaun Watson. I'm like, I don't want this dude on my team this year. Especially like if you're going to sell your soul, at least make sure the person's freaking good. It's like the idea of Deshaun Watson being bad and on your team. I can't imagine a worse feeling of like ruining your entire like 4-month fantasy season. I'm like, there are more quarterbacks now that are good in the NFL than maybe at any point in NFL history. I'm like, just take anyone else, anyone. It's fine.
I like that pick. Who do you got, Craig?
I wouldn't accept money from Michael Pittman this year. I don't want anything to do with
that. Was your number one guy last year. That was your
the pendulum.
Wasn't that your My True Love last year?
Yeah, it was. It didn't exactly work out. Not exactly his fault. I still think he's a good player, but I don't love Anthony Richardson on the ground is maybe the best running quarterback we've ever seen. Through the air, he might be the worst. And I don't like anything I've seen in the preseason from Richardson passing. This offense on the Colts this year feels like the Bears last year. It's going to be like running the Navy offense.
Yeah.
I don't want anything to do with Michael Pittman. He's way too expensive.
Also, you didn't mention this piece with Pittman. I mean, not the most durable guy. And Richardson has a couple of those throws like, I'm wide open over the middle. Now I'm jumping up for the pass that's over my head and I'm getting blasted by a safety. Stay away.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to take Jonathan Taylor here. But there is the McCaffrey 2022 trade possibility where all of a sudden he's on some awesome team and somebody has him for $19 in fear. So I'm not taking him. So I was really proud of this pick. It's Kadarius Toney.
Boo.
So there's three outcomes for a fantasy receiver like Kadarius Toney, right? One is he just never lives up to the hype and it's just super disappointing and you just regret that you take him. The second is that it's amazing and it actually works out and he plays 16 weeks, including the playoffs when you need him, those last 3. And it's just you struck oil, you hit a home run. And then there's the third one, which is the worst, which is the guy who tempts you, he tantalizes you with 2 or 3 weeks where he has like in week 4, he has 6 catches for 190 yards and 3 TDs. You're like, oh my God, I did it. I fucking landed on the moon with Kadarius Toney. And then in week 7, the red flag's up. And then it's like he missed an injury rehab session. He's been suspended by the team for 72 hours. And then he misses week 8. And then there's another injury. And then now he's just hogging my roster spot because I have no idea if he's going to come back or not. But he was the guy that had 190 yards in week 3. So I have to hold on. I don't want it. I'm out. I'm just out. I don't want to deal with it. Other people
I still dream about his game against Dallas in 2020. I believe it was week 4. He had like 150 yards. He looked like the best receiver I've ever seen in my life.
That one game.
I still think about that game and I still hope to get there one day.
You know what? Kadarius Toney's a drug. He's kind of like salvia. He distorts time because Craig and DK talk about Kadarius Toney's greatness like Michael Thomas's greatness, except salvia, it's like 10 minutes. It feels like 3 hours. I'm like, dude, he had 2 good games like 2 years ago. And I'm just, I'm completely.
He was also like the 3rd most important player on the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, mind you, and
the Chiefs
won them the game practically.
The Chiefs played him for like 5 snaps in the game. They had 2 weeks to prep him for the game. And don't even get me started.
You know what he is?
Bill, what?
He's the new Josh Gordon. I mean, different issues, but he's just so tantalizing and teams talk themselves into him. And I just don't trust it. I don't
Here's
believe
what
in
I'll
it.
say.
Josh Gordon, but he's allowed to play, but he just doesn't anyway.
This category is called I wouldn't take him even if he was free. He practically is. You can get him for $1 or $2. Who cares? It's worth a flyer.
But DK,
But it's a gateway drug.
This is the problem with the Chiefs, DK, as I look at them big picture, because I talked about this Lombardi on Sunday. I picked them in the Super Bowl last year, and the theory was their receivers are just good enough, and Mahomes is so great, and their offensive line is going to be good that he'll make it work. But now I feel like we've passed the point of no return to the degree that if they don't hit with Tony or one of their rookies doesn't actually like blossom into a major dude, who's catching the ball other than Kelsey? I cannot figure it out. What receiver do you trust the most on the Chiefs?
Probably Sky Moore. But again, we haven't really seen him yet. You know, he barely played as a rookie. Yeah, he lined up wrong in the Super Bowl and still caught a touchdown. But to me, I think so. The Kadarius Toney thing is more of a bit than us being actually serious. But I will say the way he moves is very rare.
Totally a bit.
He does. He has
rare
when you
movement.
watch him play, it's like, all right, this guy's pretty special. And then he's on the sideline.
I think the one actual analytical thing I will say about him is I think he's good on the scramble plays, on the broken plays, when Mahomes gets outside the pocket, extends plays, and that's really a huge part of Mahomes' game. Tony's always seems to be in the right place when those plays happen. Maybe it's because he's in the wrong place where he was supposed to be running. But to me, that's the one like actual analytical thing I'd say, other than he moves differently than everyone else on the field, that's what gets me excited about Tony.
Craig, you know what? Fantasy football is enough pain and heartache and self-doubt and hating yourself. I don't need to also bring Kadarius Toney into that. I don't need to be tantalized by this talented dude. I'd never root for an injury, but he is one injury away, guy. There's two that jumped out at me. I'll let Craig have the other one. Tajay Spears on the Titans.
Yeah.
Just electric. Did it in college. There's like this whole Emmitt Smith possibility with him where it's like all the evidence was there all along. We just didn't look. There's some change of pace stuff with Henry. This could be the year Henry goes south, but you take Spears. You take Henry and you take Spears is probably the move. But you could just take Spears, and then the guy who has Henry is pissed off that you took fucking A. You spent $7 on Spears. You knew he was my backup. But then in like week 6, he's just crushing it. So that is my guy. Who do you have, DK?
Well, I had Spears, but since you took him, I'm going to go with Sam Darnold.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
I'm half kidding, but not really. Like
there's some Shanahan loves him buzz that's definitely percolating. I can't do it after he blew the 21-0 lead to Tampa in the last week of the season. I can never go back. Who do you have, Heifetz?
Well, this is real synergy because the guys I've written down are Jalen Warren, who I'm sure Craig is going to say, and I have Tajay Spears, and I have Sam Darnold. I can't believe
Sam Darnold. Right. Yeah,
I will use this moment to say nothing should go wrong with Brock Purdy. I wish nothing ill upon him, of course. However, people really overlook the whole undefeated thing happened in line with Christian McCaffrey starting games for them. Number one. Two, what can Brock Purdy do that Sam Darnold can't do? Like the whole problem with Sam Darnold was basically his brain and that he was coached by Adam Gase to enter the NFL. And I can't think of a wider gap between coaching the bad habits out of you than Adam Gase and Kyle Shanahan. I think the Brock Purdy chapter will be very funny. And honestly, I think the Niners might win the Super Bowl if Darnold wins the job.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. Craig, you want to just end it here?
I don't want to do Jalen Warren because I don't want Najee to get hurt. I don't want to speak that into existence. I like Najee Harris. I think they're a good 1-2 punch. I don't want to do that. You know who I want to give it to? Brandon Ayuk on the 49ers. Brandon Ayuk needs to put a couple banana peels on the field for Kittle, McCaffrey, and Debo because we've been waiting for this guy to blow up, and he almost does it. He has a few spike weeks. Like whenever one of those other guys gets hurt, Brandon Ayuk hits a great game. We need to get a couple of those guys out of here because I've been hearing how Ayuk is one of the best receivers in the league for 3 years now.
That's a really good one. Well, I guess technically nobody took Jalen Warren, but we all had him. That's one where he's the new Tony Pollard is really what he is. Or just he's kind of Tony Pollard in waiting for the moment the Steelers realize it and opportunity happens.
Najee Harris should probably sleep with one eye open.
It's a good thing.